the juror issue and all the other post-trial issues that are going to be subjects of the appeal. So it obviously took several months to get all that done, longer than it should have in my personal opinion.
And this is such a basic question, and I sort of know the answer to it, but I think the audience would want to know. When we get to the Court of Appeals, we're out of Berrien County now. Are we away from Judge Chirac and this corrupt machine going on there? Are we going to get a fair hearing? Are we away from those Judge Chirac at that point? Because he wouldn't even, no matter how much evidence we came to in this last evidentiary hearing, no matter how much we came to that hearing with, he wasn't even going to hear it. I mean, they have had their minds made up from the beginning what their plan was. So are we going to get a different hearing?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. It's going to be looked at by a whole new court outside of that county, and they will just be examining the transcript without any bias like what we think we saw there in Berrien County.
Filling in for Dr. Webster Tarpley. Now, for the remainder of the show, the last 3 segments, we have a big issue to cover, sort of a different issue, but a big austerity issue. We've been covering austerity issues in the rest of the show. Each segment, a different person fighting a segment of austerity and fighting for your future. My friend Michael Chiotinas is here to help me cover this big topic. And here it is. Middle-class girls in America are turning to prostitution to pay their student loans. On a site called, well, this is one, the major site is called seekingarrangements.com. That's the #1 site. There's many sites, turns out, and that are cater to sugar daddies and sugar babies. And this is the rise of middle-class prostitution in America. America is coasting on the fumes of the New Deal, and now we have the phenomenon of sugar babies and sugar daddies. We have to do justice to this major issue. This is a big issue. This is a big form of austerity. And this is what austerity gets you. And it makes me mad. End austerity. What answer would any Democrat or Republican possibly have to say if told millions of middle-class girls in America are prostitutes now? Prostitutes to pay their student loans. And this is the result of decades of your failed policy. During the collapse of the Roman Empire, there were vacuums created by impotent central governments, and economic despair throughout Europe were filled by what we now know as feudalism. Cliques of wealthy aristocrats throughout the former empire organized armed gangs, protection rackets, and utilized formerly prohibited or suppressed institutions like gambling, usury, and prostitution to enhance their power and land holdings. Similar systems have continued to exist wherever poverty and oligarchy collide. Today, the feudal relations associated with the Third World or the post-collapse Soviet Union are now making dangerous inroads into the economically depressed United States and into Europe, where Michael is. And what oligarchs have long sought, population reduction, arbitrary power, and fealty to serfs, is coming into view. It is here. Nowhere, perhaps, is this more readily apparent than the sudden emergence of this seeking arrangements prostitution among educated Western middle-class women. We are now living in the world of Brandon Wade, who uses this is the founder of Seeking Arrangements, who uses his famous quotes, "Love doesn't exist and love is for poor people," to market the concept. Brandon Wade is the Asian American entrepreneur, MIT graduate who also worked as a consultant for Booz Allen Hamilton, and now founds the website Seeking Arrangement. As reported by The Atlantic in How Sugar Daddies Are Financing College Education, it says the website allows cash-strapped young co-eds to connect with middle-aged or elderly men willing to pay thousands a month for their companionship. Published reports and profiles about the users of this service make it clear that this is sex for money. This is a sex for money arrangement with Wall Street bankers, tech entrepreneurs, and a few at the top ending up with their own personal harem of co-eds. I was shocked to learn that Seeking Arrangements has 3.6 million members. 3.6 million members. There's 350 million in America. 3.6 million members with these babies outnumbering the daddies about 10-1 and growing quickly. What used to be the preserve of women with troubled childhoods and drug addiction has, thanks to this Wade's marketing savvy, become increasingly acceptable to middle-class women who in generations past would be thinking about family, children, career, with the cost of education representing only something that was a minor obstacle. In the U.S. and Western Europe, most notably hard-hit Greece, where Michael's about to answer some of our questions, an astonishing number of women are turning to these arrangements, pornography, or even outright street prostitution and stripping to hang on to what they expected out of life. In third world countries, we know that women turn to prostitution because they face literal starvation. But here we have a different dynamic. It's a middle-class girl like myself from a middle-class family. I learned to expect certain realities, like mainly that you would go to college. And it appears that middle-class girls now will do the worst extreme thing, which is prostitution, to hang on to this expectation of an education. I'm disturbed by it, and when I began my research on the subject, I learned how badly Greece was affected by this since the crash. So I called Michael to make sense of it all, and he is here today. Michael?
Hello, Daniela.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yep, perfectly.
Yes. Now, let me tell you, when you asked me to look up this seeking arrangement thing, because you wanted to work on writing an article on the subject. Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I had no idea what that was, and I was really surprised with the cynicism of the whole thing. And also, I had never, till that day, thought to look at how the crisis and austerity is manifesting in this area of activity, to put it kindly. And it was by luck, the exact same day, this article about prostitution in Greece had come into my attention. Well, here in Greece, what we have is simple. The rich getting richer, the middle class, it has disappeared, and the one-time poor are now destitute. But this seeking arrangement, I don't know, it's like a tale about a society breaking apart, becoming two societies. But firstly, you were telling me about your experience in San Francisco, where you met those girls. Tell us about that, because it's really hard for people to believe this. That's my problem, to believe this.
Yeah, it was actually horrific. I didn't know what this was either, and then I came through the research to find out how big it was, 3.6 million, and I was horrified when I called you. I was with girls who are in their early 20s visiting San Francisco this week, and they're almost all apparently on this website. And maybe it's especially to survive in an expensive city like San Francisco, but I was really disturbed and asked a lot of questions, and this is serious. Millions of women in America are turning to websites like Seeking Arrangements. I've learned to pay for their college loans mainly. And then there's also living expenses. These girls were living in studio apartments with 2 or 3 in the same room and going out just to pay for meals and to subsidize the cost of living going on this website. And this is what I had always associated with third world countries. And it just hit me. This was an example of economic breakdown, and it's not coming. I realize that it's here, and I think we should raise bloody murder about this. I called you, I called Webster, and I said, let's raise bloody murder about this. Where are the feminists, first of all? I don't see much from them online. I searched feminists, what they had to say about seeking arrangements. No, I didn't find much. Where are the feminists? Where are the politicians? Where's Elizabeth Warren, who gave up on her 0.75% loans to the Fed? I blame her for this. And where's Hilella Walls filling in for Dr. Webster Tarpley, here with correspondent in Athens, Michael Chiotinas, friend of the party. We are talking about a sort of different subject, but an example of atrocious austerity, a dating website called Seeking Arrangements, which when I found out about it, hit me like a ton of bricks, and I realized the future is not coming, it's here. And I was saying before the break, where's Elizabeth Warren? I blame her for this, who gave up on her 0.75% loans from the Fed. And where's Hillary? And now, so
yes,
that's, sorry.
you're right. Where's Hillary? Didn't Hillary? Didn't she come out this week and talked about the debt-free college or something?
Yes, she did. That's what, I was going to say that. She did come out because this is such a big deal, because she knows she can win the election if she talks about debt-free college. But here's what scares me, Michael. There's no specifics. They always say all sorts of stuff when they're campaigning, but that doesn't mean that when they get into office, they're going to do anything. It was actually her aide, Mook, who said it. And that's the problem with all of these candidates that are flooding onto the scene for president. They have no specifics. They're paying lip service to all these big left talking points. But where's the beef? She said that we would have to work on student loan debt, and I think she has some bill, but it's very complicated. And it was her assistant that let fly, but strategically, the words "free college," which will help her get elected. And everybody's rightfully excited about it. I'm excited about the idea, but where are the specifics? I don't get excited necessarily until I hear specifics, like where are the 0% loans and free state and community tuition. At least Obama has his 2 years of community college for free and a plan to make that happen. So another thing I also saw that's scaring me, Michael, are the devastating psychological effects that are manifesting. This used to be the domain of only people with troubled childhoods, and I think we will start to see more and more people what I saw were these people who came from relatively decent childhoods, and now they're in this brutal, brutal world. The dating scene is a brutal world, and it has psychological effects if they're engaging in prostitution and they're not coming through unscathed, and it's going to have effects on society as a whole.
Yes, of course. I was also thinking about, of course, what does that phenomenon mean for society? But yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. The psychological effects or the psychological circumstances in which this can happen is not just interesting. It's kind of scary, actually.
No, it is, because despite what some may think, the assumption that prostitution is sex or simply sex is just wrong. It is, in reality, sexual violence, and it's a last-ditch measure of economic survival. And that's what we're seeing. I was reading a study published by Melissa Farley of the San Francisco Prostitution Research Center, and I have that in my notes, and one survivor of prostitution called it paid rape. And how are they going to deal with this?
Yes, it certainly devalues our human connections, true human connections. It's a terrible loss for individuals, and it's a terrible loss for society as well. I watched this White House Correspondents' Dinner where a comedian said, it is so glamorous to be at the Washington Hilton, as a prostitute might say to a congressman, and then they all laughed, and that's not so funny. I don't think it's funny.
It's not so funny. No, it's not funny. Seeking arrangements. It's big. It's a big thing. How is it mainstream? Meaning, you were talking about the White House Correspondents' Dinner making light of prostitution. This thing's written up in the Wall Street Journal, Forbes. It was covered on the Dr. Phil show, where Dr. Phil is sitting there laughing at it, almost, because he wasn't aggressively against it, he was almost complicit in it. So, and I can't find the feminists. So.
Yeah, of course. Yes, this should be a big issue. The interesting thing about this is that nobody's attacking this. You're absolutely right, and no defense is up. We should act. We should act fast, and we should act deep. And this is a huge thing that's not getting the attention it deserves. You're right. Where are the feminists?
we have to hammer Hillary and Elizabeth Warren with these statistics every chance we get, any place we can get to them. If you have mass unemployment and you have the breakdown of families and a bunch of desperate women who can't maintain a standard of living of whatever level they grew up expecting, this is marketed to the middle class. Yeah. A lot of girls on this site are middle class,